Hi, this is Arthur, and this is a summary of the story of Navia's story quest released in Genshin Impact version 4.3. The traveler is walking around Fontaine when they bump into Navia. After the recent flooding, Pusang is rebuilding and Navia invites them to come see the town. They take an aquabus over, and along the way, Navia explains that all three aquabus lines were funded and built by the Spina di Rosula. That's why all three lines are named after her father, Callus, her mother, Clementine, and herself. Side note, Navia is the current president of the Spina di Rosula. Navia's father was the former leader. Navia's mother died during Navia's birth, and her father died in a duel with Clorinde. They get to Pusang and meet Florent, a member of the Spina. Florent took over Melos' responsibilities and is managing Pusang's rebuilding and the construction of a statue for Navia's parents. Side note, Navia had two close associates, Melos and Silver, who both died during the recent flooding. As they make their way through Pusang, they talk about a girl named Adele who admires Navia and wants to join the Spina. However, Adele is too young. Navia was going to console Adele by picking her up a Spina uniform, which she forgot to pick up when she met the traveler. Just then, an old member of the Spina named Coulter returns after a years-long imprisonment in Meropide. Coulter doesn't seem to know anything about what's transpired in the past few years. Navia updates him on events, including those who've died since he's been away. Coulter is in shock, but then brings up someone named Romeo. Romeo led a separate faction of the Spina that splintered off over a dispute regarding the construction of the aquabus lines. Romeo's faction wanted the funding for the aquabus lines to go elsewhere and later cut ties with the Spina over the disagreement. Recognizing that Romeo's faction poses a threat, Navia tells Florent to keep an eye on them. Coulter then asks to take a walk with Navia and to clear his head, and Navia invites the traveler to come along. They also decide to head back to the city to pick up Adele's uniform. After a brief walk and some snacks, they head to the court of Fontaine and pick up Adele's uniform. As they walk around, they notice they are being followed. They confront their pursuers and after a brief fight, subdue them. The pursuers confess to being part of Romeo's faction and want to mess up their day. Navia lets them go and tells them to notify their boss she wants to make peace. The faction members leave and they decide to stay the night at the Fleuve Cendra. They spend the night and even do some fishing. The next day, they head back to Pusang and give Adele her uniform. Just then, Florent shows up and tells them that Romeo's faction is outside with a bunch of explosives. It seems Romeo's faction seeks to blow up the nearby aquabus lines and bury Pusang in the rubble. The traveler goes to stop Romeo's faction while Navia and Florent evacuate the townspeople. After the traveler leaves, Coulter suddenly attacks Navia but is blocked by Florent. Coulter then confesses he was well aware of everything that happened while he was in Meropide. When he got out, he made a deal with Romeo's faction to kill Navia in exchange for not burying Pusang. Coulter hates Navia and blames her for many of the deaths Spina endured since Navia was born. Just as Navia starts feeling guilt for those past tragedies, Adele intervenes and expresses her support of Navia. Adele's words help Navia regain her composure and they fight and defeat Coulter. Navia then leaves the evacuation to Florent and heads off to help the traveler. Meanwhile, the traveler defeats much of the faction and defuses many bombs, though not all of them. Some bombs go off uphill and send rubble tumbling down. Just then, Navia shows up and destroys all the rubble before it can reach Pusang. Later, the Maison Gardiennage arrive and arrest Romeo and his faction, along with Coulter. They head back to Pusang, where Florent surprises Navia with a picture of the new statue. Turns out Florent and the rest of the townspeople decide that the statue should include not just her parents, but Navia too. Navia is deeply moved by the statue and strengthened by the town support. And that is the end of this quest in this video. If you've liked what you've seen here, please like, comment, and subscribe.